Without this specific process, you could end up burning through years of your life, slumped over your phone, scrolling through images of women that will never even know you exist, as you contemplate the fact that you very well may live the rest of your life frustrated, desperate, and completely, utterly alone. Or possibly worse, with a woman who you despise and who despises you, as the rusted chain of fear you have tied to each other flattens you to a life of emptiness, suppressed rage, and resentment that empties you out, your soul bleeding out into the streets of a life that you'll never have. Dramatic? No, not for some men. For some men, this will actually become their existence. If you consume information from fake dating experts, from the fraudsters, you're going to get the wrong information. And this inaccurate information is going to lead to inaccurate actions. Inaccurate actions lead to poor results. You may feel angry, frustrated, rejected, so on. These negative feelings will lower your confidence and start to warp your self-perception. You will start to think that there is something wrong with you, when in fact, you may be perfectly fine. Your lowered confidence may cause you to sweat and tremble the next time you're in front of a beautiful girl. If it gets worse, you may hesitate with any remotely attractive female. Your nervousness and lowered self-esteem will be felt by the girl, and her response will likely be negative. This will then lower your confidence even more, and down the hole we spin, lower and lower into some kind of strange hell. A prison starts to form around you, separating you from the outside world, from women, and from your full potential as a human being. This must be stopped. If we stop the spiral now, it gives us a chance to give you a push in the opposite direction, spinning upwards, gaining positive momentum. We can create the complete opposite scenario, where we do the right thing, you then get a positive response, feel good, do an even better thing, get an even better response, etc. This is why we dedicated a whole video last time to spotting fake dating experts and inaccurate dating information. So we can reverse course immediately, so you don't have to rely on any one person or source of information. What we want to do is try to be scientific and intelligent so that we can be effective and efficient. We not only want to figure out what the bad information is and get the correct information, but then also very quickly be able to test and know what's working, not just generally, but also working for you specifically, so that you don't have to waste a bunch of time figuring it out. So if there was unlimited time in the world, you could just sort of bumble about and bump into things that work. You could say 100 different things, 100 different ways to 100 different women, and one of them would work. Through sheer volume, you'll probably get lucky. It's the whole, broken clocks, right, twice a day, whatever. But we don't have endless time, so we need a proven process. The process is the scientific method. It's been around in some form all the way back to Aristotle over 2,000 years ago. The method is simple. Instead of just haphazardly trying things, we focus on one possible solution to a problem and collect objective, measurable data so that we don't just feel something is better, we know it is better. In short, we use logic. So the first thing we want to do is identify what is the specific problem that is a priority for you that we want to work on first. Then what we're going to do is make a guess, which we will call a hypothesis in the scientific method. But it's really just an idea or a guess based on the best information that we have on what will solve that problem or what will be the most effective way to do something. And ideally, what you want to start doing is looking at the dating process as sort of a linear process. It begins with some way of having exposure to women, whether it be in real life with a group of friends or out in public somewhere at a coffee shop. at a group, at a class, or it be online. Then the next step's moving into how do you go from you're over here and she's here, and how do you get in front of her? How do you walk over to her, or how do you message her? Then what do you say? How do you say it in a way that is effective? How do you have confidence during that process? How do you feel good during that process? How do you be more attractive during that process? Then how do you get the phone number? How do you get the date? What do you do on the date? You go through the whole thing, right? We also then have you as basically the product moving through that process. So not only how do we effectively move through that process, but how do we make you actually be your best self or be shown in your best light so that everything is more effective along the process. For now though, let's just stick with the actual linear process, which would be meeting, talking, moving on to the next step, whether it be a date, whatever it is, a phone number. Focus on that. Identify where are you the weakest, or where do you need the most help? And what is the problem? So for example, can you even find the type of girls you're looking for? Let's say you do. Let's say you go back to the coffee shop. You like girls that sit at coffee shops and read books. Okay, so you go to the coffee shop and they're there and they're reading books. You found them, great, this is amazing. Now, you maybe don't even ever approach and talk to them. Why? What is the problem? Are you afraid? Do you not know what to say? What is the issue? Or maybe you do talk to them and it doesn't convert, so you don't get a phone number. Okay, well, how are you asking for the phone number? Are you doing it in a weird, awkward way? Let's just stick on that one for a moment. So you're going to want to collect the best information you can on how to ask for a phone number. How do we do that? Go back to our last video that we made where there's a lot of bad information. The vast majority of dating coaches, pickup artists, whatever you want to call them, dating experts that I've seen online don't know what they're doing, or at least they are not getting great results with great women from what I'm seeing. Or if they are, it's a remarkable scenario where they're somehow doing it in spite of some of the things they're saying and doing, not because of them. How do I know that? Because I've actually dated very beautiful women. I understand how this stuff works. Anyways, the point is, get the best information you can. You can use that as a guide to try to spot and figure out the information. And then to further identify whether or not the dating coach or pickup artist or whoever it is actually knows what they're talking about, you're going to test it in real life, but you're going to do it in a very scientific, specific way. But not only are you going to test the validity of whether they are good or not, because if you try something that they recommend and it doesn't work, and you try it 5 or 10 times and it still doesn't work, they probably don't know what they're talking about. So that clears that up where you can start getting the right information. But then we need to know, is it going to work for you, and is it going to work in the different scenarios and situations that you need them to work? We're going to get the best information we can, and like I said, make a best guess, which we call a hypothesis, to test. Maybe you learn from me that one of the best ways to ask for the number is not to ask and to just lead the interaction and to hand her your phone and say, let me grab your number, or I'm going to be XYZ place that you and her talked about next Saturday. I can let you know how it is. If you want to come by, I'll grab your number and you can let me know, hand her your phone and get her number. That's just one example. So you try one of those things I just said, or whatever version of it feels right for you. You are now testing the hypothesis. Now, what happens if it works? Well, if it works, then you're good. Now you have her phone number, you go hang out with her. Done. Simple. If it doesn't work, what do you do? If it doesn't work, then all we need to do is we need to then move on to the next step, which is, so we've got a problem. We then propose a solution, an idea, which we're calling a hypothesis. Then we're going to test that hypothesis. Does that work? If it doesn't work, then we're going to analyze the data. We're going to try to figure out why it doesn't work. So ask yourself, how did I feel? Did I feel a little bit weird or nervous? Did I say something that I'm just copying from somebody else and it's not really my personality? Did I not ask for the number but tell her and lead, but do it in an overly commanding way where it almost felt rude? Did I time it wrong? We're going to analyze, and then we're going to take that and identify what we can do to improve. Now we slightly tweak or radically tweak, depending on how that first test went, the hypothesis. So now we're going to adjust and we're going to retest. So maybe you tried the whole, I'm doing this next weekend, or I'm doing this Thursday night, or I go here, do you want me to let you know how it goes? And maybe you said that and you don't actually have plans for Saturday night. So then you felt incongruent and you felt inauthentic and you felt dishonest because you were saying something that wasn't even true. That feeling that you have then could affect your energy and how you come across to the girl. She might then not react as well, not perceive you as well, or maybe you aren't doing enough things and you need to start doing things, or maybe we need to try a different approach. Whatever it is, you're going to try that next thing. That's your new hypothesis. And then you run through the same process, right? It's a circular process where we go from hypothesis, we're going to test it. So there's a new hypothesis, a new guess. We're going to test that. We're going to look at the data. We're going to analyze the results. And then we're going to tweak and try to improve from there. In-field footage can be faked. Pictures with attractive women can be faked. The perception of skills through slick talk and sales copy and all this fancy marketing can all be faked. What's real is real life. Step out into the world and apply what you have learned. Does it work? That is the only thing that is real. You now have a process you can use to not guess if something works, but to confirm that in fact it does. So take the ideas of the best information that you can find, ideally from guys that are naturals. Also, as a side note, from guys. I know there's a lot of dating videos, advice videos on YouTube that are from women, and they seem to actually be, when I've looked on there, where they're pushing those at the top for whatever reason. There can be some helpful information in there, so it's not the worst to look at it. But at the end of the day, these women are not going and approaching women. You need to learn from men that have gone up and approached and talked to hundreds of men, hundreds of men, hundreds of women, hundreds of dates, whatever. Like there needs to be a certain amount of volume of experience. Maybe you don't need 100 dates, but like at least a guy who has gone up cold and approached 100 women. If you want to learn from somebody on how to talk and attract women. Women are not doing that. So whatever, we don't need to get into all that right now. You get the point. Learn from men that have natural skill. We talked about this in the first video. Learn from men that then also have this natural skill and have built on it and developed it. And have the intelligence and have the motivation to decodify what's working for them and put it into solutions that will help you get the results that you're looking for. And try to avoid or minimize guys that have historically been terrible with women, and then they read some books or they watch some YouTube videos and they try these different tricks and tactics and they get some results, but they don't really have that deep down ingrained intuition and feel and experience with the most beautiful women that are out there. And experience not just attracting them and going on a date or hooking up with them, but actually being in relationships with them. Take that. Then think, what feels right to me? Does this feel off for my personality? Does this feel right? Test it. Be specific, like we talked about. Identify the area. Then, if it doesn't go well, refine, test again, and keep going through that till you get the results that you're looking for. Don't just rely on repeating and copying what you're seeing online. Learn from it, but go and test it and do this in real life so that you can take control of your life. You're not going to be dependent or reliant on any one person or any one piece of advice. And a quick warning, do not experiment with anything that doesn't quite feel right or natural to you. It feels like something that is really kind of outside your comfort zone on a girl that you're really into, because you can blow your chances with that one girl. Now, on the other hand, don't avoid talking to her. You're going to have to go talk to her. But if you do it, keep it more in your comfort zone so you don't say something or come off really awkward when you're trying to test stuff out. If you're trying to test stuff out, you do want to do it on girls that you have at least some interest in and that you're attracted to some degree, of course. But you are going to potentially have some situations that don't go as well because you're just trying things out. You're practicing. What you want to do is, once you have it dialed in and you know it works, then go and use it on that girl that you really are into. Because for me, I've done this exact thing, and I did it with something that was a little out there. I thought it was it didn't really make sense, but it was a piece of advice that I heard, and I just wanted to try it. I tried it on a girl who was amazing. She was like, this was a girl I very much regretted doing this with, because I could have just done what I normally did and it would have went fine. In fact, I tried what I tried. It didn't work. The test failed. And then later, this was out at a bar. And then later in the night, I found out that the girl that I approached actually knew some of the people I was with. So I didn't even have to cold approach her. I would have had an introduction and I could have had a great time with her, and who knows what would have happened. But I ruined it. She was not happy with me. It was awful. And I still to this day regret it. So don't try anything too weird feeling to you, or too off, or too awkward, or something that you're too unsure of with a girl that you're really into. Save it for the ones that you're just kind of testing stuff out with. What's an action plan that we can implement to start getting you results right away? We're going to follow the process. And what you're going to do is you're going to work through the process I just mentioned, and you're going to create ratios. By the way, I know this can be a lot. It's like overwhelming with all these different things, and how do we optimize all of them? We're doing coaching right now depending on when you're seeing this, there might be a few spots left. So just check that down. We're doing coaching for $1 it's a 5-week thing. It's basically free. So just check down in the description if you're interested in that. I can help. Well, I will personally walk you through and help you with a bunch of this stuff. But if you're doing it on your own, what you want to do is develop ratios. Remember we talked about how do I ask for her number? Write down and quantify how well that is working for you to develop a ratio. If asking for a phone number, can I please have your phone number, it can work, but it's not ideal. If you do that 10 times and it works one time, then you know you have 1 out of 10. That's your ratio. It's 10%. If you then try hey, I'm doing this, I'll let you know, let me grab your number, and you kind of just sort of lead, if that gets 5 out of 10 times, then that's your ratio. So that's 50%. And you don't need to do this, obviously, with every single thing. But if you have a sticking point in your dating process, you're not going to ever get to the finish line, or at least you're not going to do it without it taking like 5 years of your life if you keep getting stuck in the same spot. So if you're stuck in a spot, then it doesn't really take that much more time. You're going to save years, actually, by taking a few extra minutes to just document, or at least make a mental note of what your ratio is, trying one thing versus the other and seeing what works. So the action plan is identify where you need the most help. Come up with a guess on how to do it. Try it. Write down your ratio. How effective is that thing that you're trying to do? Is it working well? Is it not working? Try to improve, and then continue to collect data on that ratio to ultimately find what's going to get you the best result. I also want you to keep in mind, you're not looking for a perfect solution. There is no perfect thing that's always going to work. These aren't hard sciences that we're talking about. You're dealing with human beings. A human being is going to be different on a different day, and you're going to get a different response on a different day in a different scenario. You are going to feel different on a different day. You're going to feel better on one day. That's going to affect your interactions. If you feel worse on another day, that could affect your interactions. You want to get to a point where no matter how you feel, you can still get results, but you're not ever going to be perfect. And the person you're talking to, one day is in a good mood, is in a social mood, or maybe recently broke up with their boyfriend and is receptive and wants to hang out. Another day, they just got into a committed relationship with someone that they love, and that's not going to work, most likely, unless, she's a little, So keep that in mind. And then commit to this process for at least 3 weeks. And then you'll slowly at first, but then faster and faster, start to see your life improve, because you'll start to see and feel momentum. 3 weeks, that isn't much of an investment for the feeling of a beautiful woman in your arms and the anxiety expelled from your being, knowing that you finally figured this stuff out. Take action on this today. If you're subscribed, I'll make sure you get specific and accurate information, the correct information on each step of the dating process that we talked about. Where do you meet the women? What do you say? If you're nervous, how do you overcome approach anxiety? How do you ask for the number? What do you do once you get the number? What do you text? How do you set up a date? What do you do to prepare for the date? What do you do on the date? How do you make sure the date goes well and she becomes more attracted to you? We'll go through all of that, and I'll make sure that information comes your way. Other than that, again, if you need help, there's only a few spots, so grab the coaching for $1 below. We're doing a few things there, so just check that out. But remember, you have to test. Once you test, then you know.